Well, first of all, nothing could be more unfair than what we do today. You couldn't do worse than a system in which the best teacher gets nothing for that, is treated no better than the worst teacher, whoever that may be, and that either job protection or pay is only a function of seniority and not how good a job the teacher did. So surely we can be more fair than that. Now, I do think we have to be very careful how we do it. How the students did, which is what really counts in the end, can't be the whole basis, but it has to be in there somewhere. Today it's not even part of the evaluation, and it has to be part of it. And it has to be the growth that the student achieves. We can't penalize the teacher who gets a class of kids who are starting out behind. So everybody agrees with that. Lastly, I think it has to be local. You know, I wouldn't try to devise a system for everybody, and Tony Bennett won't try to do it either. But I do think that within those guidelines, if every district will try to have a fair evaluation system that does incorporate some look at student growth, we'll learn over time which ones are the most accurate and the most fair. And you know, this is something that is coming in this country, and is, by the way, it's very bipartisan. It's being led by Democrats, including President Obama, as much as by anybody in my party. And so I hope it's something we can get people from all sides together on. But just remember this, in Indiana right now, more than 99% of the teachers are rated effective, if they're rated at all. And but that can't be right, because only 1/3 of our kids are passing the national reading and math tests.
Well, I know for some of our local school superintendents, teachers, their concerns are, especially maybe for some of the lower income schools, that some good teachers may be penalized based on a student's performance when there may be outside factors for that child that they can't deal with.
Well, that's exactly the point that I was making. It would not be fair just to measure total student achievement. Some schools, some teachers get a class that starts out ahead of others. Now, what we seek to measure, what we want the localities to measure, is how good is a teacher at taking a child from wherever that child was to a better place. Did that child grow and learn at least a year for the year that they were in school? And again, I want to pay the best teachers much more than today. And it would be nice if we could pay more to the teachers who take those tough classes, who go to the schools where there are kids that come in with struggles. And so these are the improvements that we seek to make in public education, and I think it's very exciting for our children to know that we have a good chance to do it.
Well, in terms for the parents responsible, and I know that's an issue with teachers and some parents who
Yeah.
come from the community, when do you go in terms of, you know, reforming education, when do you put some of that responsibility on the parents to do their job at home, not just the teachers at school?
If I could pass a law to make good parents, I would. If I could pass a law that says that if I had a magic wand, that proverbial lamp I could rub for one wish, I would give every child in the state of Indiana a two-parent loving family for the first 18 years. And all these problems we're discussing, educational attainment, meth, all these other things would drop so fast. I don't know how to write that law. All I know is that the best teachers, the best schools are succeeding in America, even under the toughest circumstances, even where parents don't do what they should. And we just have to have more of those, and where we have them, we've got to reward the people, the principals and the teachers who succeed against the odds. They're the most important people we've got, and we've just got to find ways to identify them and find ways to reward them for it.
I mean, do you think there might be a problem down the road, and maybe that's where we have to figure out that maybe some good teachers may be lost, or because of, you know, maybe fall through the cracks in terms of their rating or their scale?
Yeah. Look, we lose a lot of good teachers now. We've had teachers of the year laid off in shrinking districts because they were too young, you know, because they don't have enough years of seniority. So you're making the following point. The changes will not be perfect. No, they won't. But they'll be a lot better than today. They'll be a lot more fair than today. And we can learn from it. If we keep it local, if it's designed locally and run locally, I want each district to come at this the way that seems most fair. Go get a check off at the Board of Ed just to make sure that it's not a sham, what you're doing. But you know, let's get to work on this and know that whatever we do is a whole lot better than one-size-fits-all where the best teacher gets absolutely no reward compared to the person who's doing the worst job.
So you'll be giving local school corporations a guideline to follow, in a sense, and then they can...
I think that's the way we're looking at it. Let's agree that instead of ruling it out, which current law does, that we rule in that how the kids did is part of it. Then let's empower and in fact direct the local principal, superintendent, and school board to really take this job seriously of figuring out which teachers are really the very best and on down. Help the ones who aren't getting it done, but reward the ones who are. And again, I think if it's locally designed, over the years, we'll figure out which systems work best, and maybe everybody will eventually adopt those.
If you could kind of give Indiana a grade before you took office,
Mm-hmm.
education-wise, currently, and then what you expect to give them in the future.
Oh. Well, we're better. We're on the way. And there are some results, I think, which are very encouraging here and there. But boy, we've got a long way to go. So I couldn't give us better than a C today, honestly. But I do see all kinds of promise. And if we can make some of these changes to, let's give more flexibility to local educators to meet these new higher expectations that we have. Let's give more choices to parents, more options, so that they can try to pick the school that's best for their child. Let's have more charter schools, for instance, more public schools without the handcuffs on them, which can tailor what they're doing sometimes to the young people who don't fit so well in the standard public school. I really think there's a lot of upside here. So I would say we've just begun our own improvement process, but I'm very, very excited about what the next couple of years could bring. Well, we're never satisfied here, and I hope whoever comes next will never be satisfied, especially when it's our kids that we're talking about. I mean, the U.S., let's not pick on Indiana. The U.S. is so far behind now, so much of the rest of the world. And so the process of catching up will be one we probably never get done with. But yes, things are better. We are attracting some terrific people to teaching now. We have some new programs. We got some folks coming in from the military or from business. We now make it much more possible for them to get licensed and get into a classroom. We've created things like the Wilson Fellows Program. Outstanding math and science scientists and mathematicians are getting licensed to teach. And so I see all kinds of bright signs and some improvements in test scores and dropout rates. The dropout bill that we passed 2 or 3 years ago is having a very noticeable effect. But again, we're coming off a low base, and so we never pat ourselves on the back. We know that the hardest work is ahead.
In terms of outlook for their budgets, I mean, what would you say for next year especially?
Right. Well,
and what can they expect?
Yeah. I think they can expect us to maintain school spending. It remains our top priority along with public safety. K-12 education is now 55% of the entire state budget. It's never been close to that in Indiana history. So you know where our priorities are, and they will stay there. And I'm optimistic because of the reductions we've been able to make everywhere else, including higher ed, by the way. We've just barely nicked K-12, and I don't think we'll have to do it again, and that's our goal. I also had the legislature include a trigger last time that said if we get a surprise in terms of more revenue than we expected, K-12 gets the first dollar of every 2. I'd like to see that in the next budget too. I mean, maybe we'll see a faster recovery than everybody expects. And if there are some more dollars, this education is where we'd like to put them. But it's still very, very important to notice that 42 cents of every education dollar doesn't get to the classroom. There's still so much overhead, so much in support services. We still, here and there, overbuild schools, or we're paying for the ones we overbuilt before. There's so much more money that could be paying teachers and making textbooks more affordable and so forth. And there's a big responsibility on those who run our schools to do better by those who teach in our schools.